Hello and welcome to the Raleigh Chamber Women's Leadership Conference. My name is Dr. Casey Ashton and I am the director of Wake Invest in Women. And I have the pleasure to be here today to talk with an amazing panel of women who are going to be sharing with all of you challenges that they've faced, how they've overcome them, and how they've used traditional, what we may call soft skills in that process. So I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for giving your time. Please, I'll allow you to introduce yourselves. Commissioner Thomas.
So my name is Shanika Thomas. I am the Vice Chair of the Wake County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
My name is Sandra Williams, and I am a trustee at Wake Tech Community College, and I own my own business.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Williamson, and I lead Global Total Rewards and HR operations at RTI International.
Hello, my name is Trenesia Martin, and I am the Deputy HR Director for Wake County Government.
Thank you again all for being here. You are incredibly talented women who have done so much in your careers, and it can be easy on looking in from the outside to think that it was easy and that the path to get to where you currently are was without challenge, without obstacle. But I'm gonna guess that that's not actually the case.
When you talk about like what was my challenge, right? You know, in my career and being successful in my career, I mean, there were many. Being a woman of color, they were many and they were endless. And to be honest, I still find myself at times trying to fit in spaces, getting others to understand that I actually belong in every space that I enter. I actually belong. But in my HR career, when I started my journey, my career field did not have very many Black women in it at all, especially at the top levels. And so in order to get myself into that space, I had to use a lot of emotional intelligence, right? I had to develop more of business acumen so that those folks that I was challenged with could understand that not only was I a student of my craft and I knew my profession very well, but I could also speak the same language that they spoke. I understood the same principles. I understood the same metrics that they understood. And so I infused myself into projects, right? So that I could gain more exposure from those in executive leaderships so that they could recognize me. It was as if I was invisible and I had to make myself visible in that space. And so those are some of the ways that I kind of overcame a lot of the challenges to get to where I was, but nothing was ever given to me. No door was ever opened just by virtue of my credentials and of my experience. Mm-hmm. I had to work extremely hard and be overqualified for positions, right, in order to have some doors open for me.
I think I'll go. So I think for me, really, it was a time that I remember having a job that I liked and was good at, but didn't love, right? And so oftentimes I think that we settle. And for me, I looked out into the community, into things that were my talent, things that I really wanted to do. I saw a need within our organization to have more community outreach and engagement. And so I went to my manager, who was also female, and honestly, sometimes that can be a challenge as well. And so I went to my manager and I said, you know, I know this is my core job responsibility, but I'd like to do just a little bit of this if that's okay, in addition to all the things I'm already doing. And she was like, oh, that's fine. And so I just kept adding pieces of that, of community engagement, of going out and telling people about the mission and the vision of our organization. And so it really morphed into me doing that most of my job. And so then we were able to change my job description. But in addition to changing my job description, the CEO of our organization came to me and she was like, you know what? I've been talking to our board, and in our strategic plan, we see the need for more community engagement. We see the need to have someone go out and advocate for our mission and our vision. And so I created space for myself, and that a job was created for me in that space. And it ended up being something that I absolutely loved to do. And I think it makes a difference when you go to work doing something that you like to do every day versus doing something that you love to do every day. So I have found in my career that I've always had to create my seat at the table.
Actually, that's a really good point, is that sometimes your manager and even colleagues or mentors are the best advocates that you'll have in your careers. And so developing those strong relationships with women for women and men for women, developing those relationships throughout your career, I think are really important, and you'll gain advocacy. Yeah, so actually, as I thought about challenges, I thought about something, maybe for me, it was a little more introspection. So my natural state of being is that I am a doer. People know I will get it done. And sometimes earlier in my career, that was a little bit to a fault, right? So any of you have read The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey know that fast is slow and slow is fast with people. And so I needed to learn that. So I did a 360-degree feedback session where I got feedback from my colleagues, from people who reported to me, from my boss, from people who were my internal clients. Got that feedback, recognized that feedback is a gift, and was able to see that, I had some gaps, that maybe I wasn't being quite as empathetic as I needed to be or as flexible as I needed to be, and that I was doing a great job of delivering and getting things done, but I wasn't helping people feel really great along the way. And so there was some change that I needed to make myself internally and to really do some true introspection.
And I see Dr. Williams, there's again all those head nods. And I've seen you throughout everyone's examples kind of nodding your head. What are some of the thoughts going through your head right now?
Well, first of all, I would agree with everything everybody said so far. And I believe that one of the things that I had to contend with, being a woman in STEM and in technology, often had to deal with that I actually belong there. And let me rephrase that. Being an African American woman in STEM, an African American woman in technology, I often had to prove that I belonged at the table. And it's a difference belonging at the table versus leading the table, because I was senior vice president for technology for the 58 community colleges, and I would come into meetings and people didn't know who I was. They just didn't know me. They hadn't met me yet. And I'll give you this one example. Don't y'all laugh too hard. But I was the kind that always like all the vendors to be there at one time. I don't like repeating things. So if everybody's there, everybody hears the same thing. And I had this one chair that I always sat in. And so I had this big meeting one day and my chair was empty. I came in the room, I sat in the chair, and one of the vendors leaned over and said, "I wouldn't sit there. That's Dr. Williams' seat." And I said, "You might want to Google her and see who she is." And I felt so sorry for him. And after it was all over, I had a teachable moment with him. Why what he did was wrong. It didn't hamper the relationship any, but I wanted him to learn, because in my heart, I want people to learn and grow. And so just having to show people that I can do this job, I do know what I'm doing, and having to prove that. I think you mentioned that, and all of us have mentioned that in some way, but having to prove that you actually belong there and can do the job has always been one of my struggles.
So making the time to take a walk at lunchtime, exercise in the morning, eating right, having time for social life, having maybe spiritual practices, I find that is what rejuvenates me, really, is that self-care.
Absolutely. I think that's important.
And for me, I'm just going to piggyback, because you said something that really touches the core of who I am. And that is in my spiritual life, because that is where I find my solace. That is where I find my restoration. Because for me, being a woman who understands what it's like to have to create space for yourself, right? When you're qualified, I'm taking this journey. right? I'm paving the way. I want to be the trailblazer for those coming behind me. I don't want them to experience those same struggles. So when I look in my rearview mirror and I see, although it's tough, I can still see where I have moved and progressed. That also, it rejuvenates me, it re-energizes me, and it gives me what I need to continue to do this, because I'm not just thinking about myself. I'm thinking about the generations that's coming behind me, creating that space for them so they don't have to fight for their space.
That's
Yeah.
incredibly powerful.
That's really good. You talked about trailblazers, and I always think that unconventional paths are created by trailblazers clearing brush, right? And so for me, it is a combination of both of those things, because I think self-care looks different for everyone, right? So I love that you gave so many different examples of that. And for me, it's a sisterhood. It's knowing that when I'm having those days that I need a little extra prayer, or I need a little extra, someone to talk to, an ear to listen, or I just need advice, or I need somebody to say, stop crying, let's get it together and keep it moving, right? So for me, it's really a sisterhood. And so I lean on my friends. I lean on my confidence. I have several really close mentor relationships and confidant relationships. And I really do lean on those and know that whatever it is I'm dealing with, whether it's an elected policy issue or it's that, my kid's driving me crazy today, because they both can happen in the same day, right? And so I kind of lean into those relationships and friendships with people who have similarity to me, and can empathize.
Absolutely.
And for me, mine was learning to be authentic. I mean, because I always struggle. I mean, you talk about the spiritual side, self-care, and everything. But mine was being authentic and learning to have people accept me for who I am. I mean, I'm a little country girl from Richmond County. There were so many things I didn't know when I came to Raleigh, North Carolina, and having moved up and done the things I've done. And part of that's still there. I mean, part of that's still in me. And so, but being authentic, and I tell people all the time that when you see Sandra, wherever you see her, that's who Sandra is. So whether I'm in the boardroom, because I'm on corporate boards as well, whether I'm in the boardroom or the pulpit, you're going to see the exact same woman. And getting to the point where I made the decision to be authentic really helps me not have to worry about what other people think or what are they going to say, that sort of thing. In addition to taking care of myself, in addition to the spirituality as well.
Well, and it's such a gift in so many ways for those younger generations to see women in these positions who are being their authentic selves, so that they can know that that is something that they can do, that they don't have to have a business persona per se, that they can be themselves, they can be the experts in their fields. Everything that y'all have said is incredibly powerful.
I would tell my younger self, don't get tired in the race. Keep walking, keep learning, keep improving yourself. You do belong. Don't listen to the negative voices. You belong. Keep staying, steady the race, and then you will get there. That's what I would tell my younger self.
I think I would tell my younger self, don't get stuck in the now such that you miss your next. So many times people, for me, back in the day, I would get stuck in what I was doing right then, that particular job, being the best at it. And then I didn't think about what was the next thing for me. So I was good at my job, but I didn't prepare myself for the next thing. And so now I always tell mentees or people that I work with is that anytime you step into something new, then you're preparing for the next thing. So approach it from that perspective, that you're always in preparation for the next thing that's going to come your way, the next opportunity. So always take and make yourself be prepared.
Oh, that is
preparation.
Powerful. I love that.
I can actually add on to that a little bit.
Yes.
So I once had someone tell me that opportunity doesn't always sound like this. That sometimes opportunity might be a lateral move. Sometimes it might be out of your field. So I moved, for example, out of HR for a while, for 4 years, into finance, having had a finance undergraduate degree. and taking opportunities, and sometimes maybe even stepping back, right? So going from a director to an associate director to get that broader exposure, and thinking of it instead of like a career ladder, maybe like a career spiral, upward spiral, not downward spiral, but an upward spiral rather than just a ladder.
We need to write a book on that. That's good.
Absolutely.
That was good. I think for me, it would be learn who you are and teach people how to treat you. I think when you first come into a space, you have an expectation. Dr. Williams talked about being your authentic self, and Tanisha talked about keep walking, and Marjorie talked about some lateral moves and not looking at everything as it's a next opportunity and it's really loud. But I think once you know who you are and you start to do the work that you do, whatever that looks like, all in the same vein, you won't be exhausted. Like you were talking about Dr. Williams' comment on authenticity. And I think that oftentimes it's all of that. It's being somebody at work, and then being this persona with my friends, and then being this wife and this mother and this person in the community. It's exhausting.
Yes.
It's exhausting. So learning who you are and what makes you happy, what makes you tick, the things that really drive you and motivate you, and then teaching other people what those things are, because then it allows you to really shine. And people know when they say, who is going to be the foremost authority on this, or I've got an opportunity for X. Well, they know that it's you because you've told them who you truly are and how to treat you.
Amazing how all of these things tie together. I can hear, as the person listening, of the challenges you've experienced and how those have shaped you and taught you. As a woman in doing this work for Wake Invest in Women, I am absolutely privileged that I get to work with all of you and that I get to learn from all of you. You are trailblazers, and I am thankful to have had you here today and to be able to share with the women and men who participate in the Women's Leadership Conference the ways that we can work together to create spaces for women to rise, to shine. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.